where I told Peter, I said, if you do something like that, I will come get you. But by the time you get home, you will own no bikes. They will all be gone. And then somebody else dropped out with COVID. And then right towards the end, and I felt really bad, it's the one woman who was on the trip, crashed and broke her collarbone. And there's probably 10 days left of riding now.
No.
I would be really pissed.
At the beginning
yeah.
You know, that they had gone all.
All right, well, I will call the meeting to order.
All righty.
Our committee chair, Lisa, couldn't be here today, so I'm going to fill in for her. And make note, we got Ms. Mel here, Mr. Reed, Mr. Cox, and myself. So we've got 4 out of 5 members, so we have a quorum. And first item of business would be approval of the minutes from the last meeting. And I handed those out. I don't think
We were
Mr.
there,
Cox or
so
Ms.
you
Mel
two
were
will
there,
have them.
so
I'll make a motion.
everything looks okay to you? Okay. I'll second that motion. All in favor of approval of the minutes from the last meeting, say yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay. That's good. And then we do have, it's a pretty limited agenda today, but we've got Marshall here with us from Meridian to give us hopefully some outstanding news.
Absolutely.
There we go. There we go. So Marshall, I'll turn it over to you and give us an update on how fourth quarter 23 ended up.
Sure, we'll cover the whole year because it was a good year. If you remember this time last year, Pat sent me in here by myself to give this for the first time. And we were coming off of the worst year for a balanced portfolio ever.
Mhm.
It was only the second time stocks and bonds had been down in the same year over the last 100 years. So it's nice to come in here when portfolios have done so well. So if you'll just go to that first slide there, this is a chart we show all the time just to kind of help everybody zoom out a little bit. And, starting in 1996, you can see this is the S&P 500, by the way. Stocks pretty much went nowhere for 20 years and had 2 recessions in between. And then since 2008, stocks have, I wouldn't say they've gone straight up, but returns have been phenomenal. One caveat there would be the last 3 years, returns have been really good, but it's been difficult with COVID. Stocks were down at 34% at one time. 2022, stocks down 25%. So it hadn't been easy, but returns have been good. So these next few slides, just like I said, I want to share kind of the big stories of 2023, and then we'll talk about 2024. So on slide 2 there, I want you to kind of focus on that left chart there. I think this is really the biggest story of the last 2 years, and that's inflation. You can see that I put 2 stars there. The last one was this November headline inflation number, and the star on the left was where inflation was at the last time I was in here. So you can see it's been more than cut in half over the last 12 months. On slide 3, just wanted to kind of show you where interest rates were at presently. For the most part of the last 15 years, rates have been near zero, with the exception of a few years in the mid-teens there. And you can see, the Fed raised rates 7 times in 2022. One of the reasons stocks and bonds had a really tough year as they tried to fight off inflation, and have hiked 4 more times in 2023. Their latest comments suggest that they're probably done with inflation kind of coming under control. Don't really see any need to hike rates any further. But I want to remind you, the Fed has a dual mandate, and one is to control inflation, which they kind of let it get out of control there for a little bit. But you could argue they've done their job in bringing that down to pretty normal levels. And the second, if you'll flip to page 4, is to maximize employment. You can see unemployment remains at all-time lows at below 4%. So everybody who wants a job has a job. It's tough for everybody. I'm sure it's tough for the city to find employees to fill roles. It's tough for us to fill roles. So it's just part of a healthy economy. On the next slide is some housing data. This was one of the big risks heading into 2023 with mortgage rates. Well, as a result of the Fed hiking short-term rates, mortgage rates screamed as well, getting up near 8%. And so the worry was that housing prices were going to collapse or drop dramatically after how much they rose in the previous 2 years. But thankfully, that never happened or hasn't happened yet. I wouldn't expect it to, and here's why. One of them is just the lack of inventory. You can see right now across the country, there's just over 1 million existing home sales, when over the last 25 years, that number's been closer to 2 million. So there's just no supply. And the other thing is that, most people that are in a house have a really good mortgage rate.
So they're not going to sell.
Yeah. So 9 out of 10 people have a mortgage rate below 6, and about 8 out of 10 have one below 5. So does anybody in here have a rate below 4%? Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So think about it. You almost can't move right now. Two of the big reasons people move are to upsize for a growing family or to downsize. And if with a rate that low, even if you buy a smaller house at a cheaper price, with mortgage rates being so high, it's likely that your payments will be more for a smaller house now than what you currently have. So lack of supply and really low outstanding mortgage rates are keeping people in place.
Yeah, those examples that you hear about in the news, they're just rounding some numbers, X amount mortgage at such percent versus now, how dramatically that changes the payment. It's eye-opening.
On page 6, this is just a review of the S&P 500 earnings over the last, since 2001. So, stocks tend to follow earnings over long periods of time with some variation in between. Keep in mind, stocks are kind of a forward-looking beast. In 2022, earnings were up 5%, but the market was down 25% at one point, like I said. But they were looking forward to 2023 when earnings were flat. So you can see the opposite's happening now. Although earnings are flat this year, they're anticipating 11 and 12% earnings growth over the next 2 years. No guarantee that'll happen, but that's just kind of what people are projecting at the current time. So if that comes true, you'd think stocks are in a pretty good place and could continue to rally from here. Page 7, I'll just cover this real quick. This is just consumer sentiment. It's strange to see consumer sentiment so low with, most of our net worth is tied up either in our house, which are at record prices, and either our retirement plan or some type of financial asset that are near records as well. So it's strange to see consumer sentiment so low. One of the reasons there's obviously what inflation's done over the last couple of years. But consumer sentiment can be used as kind of a contrarian indicator. So when people are really pessimistic, that tends to lead to good returns in stock and bonds. So you could argue that there's still room to run based off of this. And then the next 2 slides, when I was putting this together, I was sharing it with Pat just to kind of see what his thoughts were, and he gave me this funny look when I showed him these 2 slides. Like, you're kind of pushing boundaries there, but I decided to keep them in here anyway. So I don't know if he's ever given the politics speech, but I'm going to. To be blunt, there's no intelligent investment decisions to be made based off of your political beliefs or whatever. So we keep that out of our discussions completely. That top left chart there shows this is stocks going back to 1930. Stocks just tend to go up over time, no matter who the president is. So I would expect that to continue going forward. So we're going to keep you invested no matter what the results of the election are. And then looking forward, this chart on the bottom right is just kind of an average of how stocks behave during election years. And the takeaway really here is that stocks tend to do not really well through the first 3 or 4 months of the year, as election day kind of builds up and all the anticipation and worry And then, once it's all settled and everything becomes more clear, people just kind of carry on about their day and tend to have optimistic feelings going forward, and stocks tend to do better after the election's settled. And then page 9 here, this is just an interesting chart I thought I'd share with you. So this shows you how stocks have performed in election years when a new president has been elected. And if you look on the right there, stocks have never been negative when a new president's been elected. Thought that was interesting. So if you don't have any questions about that, we'll just kind of flip to your portfolio here on page 10. You'll see a general breakdown of how the defined benefit plan is invested, still mostly in stocks at around 73% or so, and about a quarter of it in fixed income. Your largest holdings, individual stock holdings there on the right. And then on the bottom, you can see going back to, I guess, inception, 1999. Is that when the plan was? Or as long as we've had the plan?
I think 99 is when you guys took over.
Yeah, so no contributions have been made since 2009. It doesn't look like. Maybe some small ones, but anyways, the balance of the portfolio is well beyond what the city's put into it. So the amount that they put into it's about $6 million, and we're banging on the door of $16 million now. So despite how good 2023 was. You're kind of right back where we were going into 2022. So we've recovered nearly all of the losses from 2 years ago. On page 11, you'll see 12-month cash flow statements, gains, income from stocks and bonds, and then the fees that you've paid us, along with all the performance data. So up on the top left there, that's the total portfolio, up 9% in the fourth quarter alone. That's the good news I brought, and up nearly 17% for the year. And even the 3-year numbers tainted back to 2022, but the 5-year number and 10-year numbers are still pretty good. So want to kind of point out the bond returns here. You can see over the past 3, 5, and 10 years, bonds just haven't done very well. And that goes back to the chart I showed you earlier. Rates have been near zero since 2009. And the best predictor of future returns for bonds is the starting coupon percentage. So you can see bonds performed really well last year. Interest rates are a lot higher now. So I would expect for bond returns to be much better over the next 5 and 10 years. And thankfully, this part of your portfolio is finally going to contribute to the overall performance.
So the gain we've seen in the last year plus really just got us back to about where we were before we took the hits in 21, 22.
Mm-hmm.
Close to what we had when we did that study. Remember where they came back and
The
said
valuation.
how the valuation,
Mm-hmm.
which is good.
Yep, because now we're due for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do one as of 12/31/23.
And then finally there, the stock return. Stocks did really well last year. Your stock's up 11% in the fourth quarter alone, and up nearly 23% for the year. So it was really a fabulous year, and we hope 2024 brings the same.
Yay.
I decided to open just a small personal investment account right when stuff started.
That's the time to buy. That's what.
No, I
Unless
did
you
it right
already-
before.
Yeah.
Oh, oops.
Was the time. Yeah, so I'm almost back to where I
I was
started.
going to say, it's not a time to sell.
Yeah.
And so the rest of this booklet is just all the holdings in your
All the
portfolio.
detail.
Mhm.
So what's the temperature on recession? Is there still a little fear of it, or?
Yeah, I think there has to be with interest rates as high as they are. I think it ultimately comes down to how long they keep rates high. Let me just show you this. Let's go back to this chart here on page 3. So those green and blue dotted lines there are kind of what people in markets think that the Fed is going to do over the next 2 years. So you can see markets are starting to price in them cutting rates this year and next year. So best bet for avoiding the recession is lowering rates. You know, they raise rates to kind of choke off the economy to control inflation. So with inflation coming down and their recent comments, I would expect them to cut rates. And if they do it fast enough, I think we can avoid a recession. But the risk is that they leave them too high for too long.
Yeah. Yeah, this time last year when we were putting together the 23 budget, that was the biggest kind of caution and fear was everybody was predicting the recession. And I think folks probably saw some recession-like characteristics, but I guess we didn't have a full-blown recession.
Yeah. You know, you could argue that there were parts of the economy that suffered recessions. The logistics industry had really tough 2022 or 2023. So a lot of people have said there's been rolling recessions throughout parts of the economy, but the unemployment rate kind of tells a story. Less than 4 out of 100 people are unemployed, and most of those are just people in between jobs.
Yeah.
There's always some level of or some amount of people that are in between leaving one job and taking another.
Yeah. And speaking of like rates versus values, I checked the value of my truck yesterday and it has not held. It's dropped a lot in the last year. And I guess it kind of goes back to the inventory piece that you were saying with housing. I mean,
Yeah, there was a time when inventory for vehicles.
It was very, very low for the supply chain issues and chip shortages, and I guess now they've caught back up to that. So
the chart on page 2 details that since about November of 2022, car prices and energy prices are actually coming down, whereas food and shelter, that kind of stuff, is just moderating. So energy and car prices have been a real drag on inflation.
Yeah, for the first time I can remember, I'm actually upside down in my truck. Not a lot, but
yeah, I don't
still
get those text messages from salesmen. Do you want to sell your Subaru? I'm like, no. No, thank you. Great.
All right. Well, thank you, Marshall. We appreciate you coming and appreciate y'all's expertise with our money.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and always fun call away.
All right.
I've got some extras. You want me to leave these with you?
Yeah, give one to Lisa.
Yeah, sure. We'll hang on
Maybe
those.
just in case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great week.
You too. All right. First item of standard business
You need to go
is
through there. Go up that.
we have some refund requests. 3 of them. We have one for Mr. Gerald Credit, $1,185.19. We have Renee Light, who has left the city, requested a refund $20,708.40. And then we have Linda White, who has also left the city and has turned in her refund request for $11,077.66. So even though there's only 3, it's still a pretty good chunk of money. $32,971.25 total. And I've got the forms here for all 3 of those, and it looks like everything is in order. So
What departments are they from?
I don't know.
Jarrell's from ours.
Jarrell works for you guys,
Renee would
Renee's
be
IT.
from IT, yeah.
and Linda is sanitation.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor of the refund request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Passes 4-0. And we have one employee who would like to retire. No, don't get excited. His name's Michael Jordan. He has not been working for us since he retired from the NBA. This Michael spells his first name differently, but has submitted documents stating he intends to retire effective 1/27/24, and he will be eligible to retire at that time. And do you know Michael? I'm not sure what department he's in.
He's not works.
Is he transportation?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I make a
Okay.
motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of Mr. Jordan's retirement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, now, sir, I have an item on here for new business. Does anybody have any new business?
No.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and write you down. Mr. Cox has made a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All right.